Are live. Welcome to this Thursday's Let's Talk Moms Conversations. This is our Thursday holiday conversations for single and co-parenting moms, just candid conversations where we talk about real life realities of being a single and or co-parenting mom. Happy Thursday, everyone. Our guest has already come in, so let me invite. He is coming on. Listen, I'm out of town, but that does not stop me from having my bubbly. Today, I am finishing up my margarita mix. Listen, look, yes, girl, yes. I am finishing up my margarita mix. I just went to the Walmarts, and grabbed something that looked like it tastes good.
Not Walmart's with an S. I love it.
Walmart with an S, honey. Yes. And so this looked like it tastes good. So that's what I got. What are you drinking on today?
I have to apologize. I'm a little boring because I just have H2O. This is provided by my faucet. It has a pure filter, and it's just...
That is a beautiful thing. Water is the foundation of life, the fountain of life. How about that?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I've had a couple of nights where I just drank water or Gatorade, so I understand. But people said that you need to get out of your little comfort zone, and so I tried something new. Okay. A few of these conversations. So thank you so much for joining us. Happy everyone that is coming in. Thank you so much for joining us today. People were just ready to come. I love when people come in and greet us at the door. Like, I love that. I am so here for that. So thank you so much for taking out of your Christmas week. This is Christmas week. Mm-hmm. So people are taking out of their Christmas week to join us to have this conversation. And this is a timely conversation because it's holiday, because it's Christmas week. I didn't even, when we planned this, I didn't think about the timing of it. But it's perfect. Look at God.
He's doing it.
He's doing it. Look at God. Perfect time to have this conversation about establishing the legacy, the family legacy that you love. So I'm so excited, and thank you so much for joining us on this day. Good evening, Samantha. How are you? So introduce yourself. So I've never met you before. This is our first time face to face.
I'm so excited.
So you have to introduce. I love meeting new people too. So introduce yourself, please.
Yes, my name is Alicia Jackson, a licensed professional counselor. I'm in Michigan. That's where I'm located. Yes. It is cold here. We've had some warm days. But it is definitely cold. It's a little slush on our porch. Not anything that's, truly Michigan like, but yes, I'm so excited. I've been a therapist for over 13 years.
Wow.
And doing...
You're along the lines with me. We old school now.
Oh, yeah.
We old school. I'm almost 20 years in the game, girl.
Yes. So it's great to be in a space. I've been doing private practice now for over 2 years. And now, I think around 2018 or so, I was just seeing a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of young people who are choosing to end their lives. And as a therapist, when I came in, I was like, I'm going to keep that separate. I'm not going to talk about mental health and all, I'm going to have fun outside of that. And I still do that, but I'm taking more of a intentional role about having more conversations about mental health. And I'm so glad that, it's been something that's well received now. We're open to it. We're becoming more open to it. And so that is, just a part of why, having conversations and continuing to have conversations, because conversations is how we grow. It's how we learn.
Absolutely. I say that all the time. Conversations is absolutely how we grow. Tell us the name of your private practice. Tell us the name of your private practice.
Yeah, so I work at, I may need a little help with that, but I work at two practices. One is Wentworth and Associates, and the other is Focus Therapy, focused therapy clinic. And one is in Southfield and one is in Utica. So they're kind of opposite directions. But I love working with young adults specifically, and in teens. But I do love my work with adults and couples as well. I'm branching out into couples, which is fun things.
Now, listen, couples is a totally entirely new beast. It is exciting. It is exciting. I love my couples work. And in what way do you support couples?
So the therapy that I tend to lean towards and favor the most is internal family systems.
Ooh, that's good. That's so good. Yes.
Yes, and so it's nurturing the relationship. So my client, when I'm working with my couples, is not either partner, but the relationship, and seeing how they both impact the relationship and the health of the relationship. So it is so rewarding work. I think a lot of times we don't understand how much our protectors can kind of get in the way sometimes of each other, receiving love. Oh, that's Larry saying hi.
That's so good. Hi, Larry. He's Larry saying, hey, Alicia. So when you say protectors, you coming out the gate when you bringing it already.
Yes.
So you already said this term that I don't know that a lot of people are really familiar with, that term protectors. What does that mean?
So when we have places, in our system, in our body, I'll say, in our body where we hold pain, and when we experience that pain, our brain says, "Oh no, not again. We're not doing this again.
We're not doing it again. I'm not messing around with you.
This not gonna happen again." So, so we develop these protectors, these way of protecting ourselves from experiencing that pain. And old school, you heard the word defense mechanism. Auntie. And so that is how we develop these protectors. But it could be a way of, like, somebody hurts your feelings, then you like, oh, I'm just not going to reach out. Or this whole, match your energy, that language we hear, that's like a way of protecting ourselves in relationships. I'm going to see what you talk about, and I'm going to match your energy because I'm not going to give more than what you're giving.
So right now we're about to enter the new year, and in the end of the new year, you see all these people on Facebook talking about their cutoff game being strong and how they're cutting people off in the new year. They're doing this and they're doing that. It sounds like that's a protector to me.
It does, doesn't it? We talk a lot about boundaries, right? We talk a lot about boundaries and a lot about saying no more, and saying yes less. But we don't do a lot of talk about like rigid boundaries and how sometimes we have those up too, and we may need to, create a door in that brick wall that we have up. So
that's so good. That's so good, because you're right. There has been a lot of conversation about boundaries, establishing boundaries, knowing your boundaries, setting those boundaries with people so they can know how to treat you. But what about the people that have too many boundaries and need to kind of just sort through some of that for themselves and let that down?
Relax.
Talk a little bit about that. How do you know when you have too many boundaries? When it's not actually a boundary, when it's actually a wall? And you can't get nobody in?
Nobody can get in or out. Yeah, if you look around and it's like, oh, I'm by myself. I can't keep a friend. I can't hold a relationship. Everybody who comes into my life, they're easily dismissed. I think sometimes there has to be a balance in the boundaries. We are flawed human beings. That is it. That we are flawed human beings. And so boundaries are important. They are essential to our voice being heard and to us being respected and loved. And at the same time, we are limited. And so it's for us to establish, like, okay, what is something that can be given grace for? And then, and that's accepting, like, hey, this is just a limitation for them.
Yeah.
Or what is something that, there are definitely some things that's just like, no, I'm sorry. Hard pass. But,
yeah.
But there's some wiggle room we can give people.
That's so good. That's so good. I feel like I know Larry now because you've mentioned his name.
Yeah.
So Larry says, or use boundaries as an excuse. And sometimes you're right. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we can use our boundaries as an excuse to keep us safe. Because then I don't have to have that. Because sometimes it's uncomfortable to be loved. Ooh. And to love is really uncomfortable, right? And so if you have those walls up, then you don't have to feel that discomfort, right?
Yes. So it becomes another protector, right? So if you are saying, okay, this is a boundary for me, I'm not going to do this, then you become avoidant of things that are part of your growth process.
Your growth process. Yes.
Yes. Oh, this is Lamont.
Lamont. Hi, Lamont.
That's like my childhood friend.
Oh, okay. Hey, Lamont. Thank you for correcting us.
Yes, thank you so much. Because now I'm like, oh, now I want to text you after this. Okay. But yes, it is. It's truly about okay, am I being in a space where I'm shutting my growth process down because I don't want to do the uncomfortable, or I don't want to do the work of really having great connections with people because I don't want to deal with the uncomfortableness of being loved, right? Because this is if you're used to, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are used to just very invalidating relationships and really traumatic relationships. And so the fact of someone accepting you and being honest and appreciating you, it feels uncomfortable. And it's I don't know if I trust this. I don't know if I deserve this. I don't know if this is, and all these questions. And so then it's oh, no, I don't want to deal with this.
I'm good, love, and joy. I'm good, love, and joy. I love that. And I love what you're saying because you're right. Sometimes we think, well, what's the point in relationships? And we kind of had this conversation the week before last. And it was a really great conversation the week before last about relationships. And one of the points of relationships are to help you to grow. Yeah, and so what you're saying kind of goes in alignment with the conversation that we had last week, which is amazing. And Lamont, you're absolutely right. It's all about being vulnerable. Excellent. Alicia, you are coming out the gate strong, girl. I want to slow you down a little bit and just kind of go a little bit backwards and talk about why we're here tonight. And that is about family legacy. So when you think about legacy, why do people even consider legacy a thing? Why do we even my company's name is Legacy Empowerment Services. Ooh. That's the name of my company. And I'll tell you about why I, established the name of that company maybe a little bit later on. But tell me about how did you get into this whole business of legacy and why is it important to you?
Legacy to me is so connected to the healing process, especially from the area of grief.
Ooh.
And so, we talk about, and we do think about it. A lot of people want to have a legacy that they leave behind for their children. We talk generational wealth. We talk in that way. But when we're talking about dealing with the healing through grief, a part of the healing process is also taking on the aspects of the loved one or the aspects of the person that's passed on that you hold dear and making that a part of you so that they are still, a part of them is still living, a part of them is still in that space. And a part of how we tap into the legacy is by what I'm saying, by being vulnerable, by sharing our stories. I think a lot of times what gets in the way of our healing process, even in relationships, familial relationships, is not knowing the story. We have parents who don't know their children don't know their parents because they're not sharing story. And
why don't we share these stories? These stories about family, these stories about life and how your family came to be who and what it is present day. Why don't we have those conversations?
We don't have those conversations, I think, a few reasons. One, because it's uncomfortable. A lot of times Parents want their children to see them in a certain light, and so they're not completely honest, about their story, and then there's just, unfortunately, there's just certain things that aren't talked about. Especially in Black families, for sure, there's just certain things you just do not talk about. It may be because it's going to actually strain a relationship, and it's unfortunate. A lot of things come out after people pass, and you're like, "Oh, I wish I would have known that before." But I think that's a big part. And then because I think we get too caught up in the busyness of life, we're to, and it's a legit thing, right? It's a legit thing to be busy, and we have so many moving parts, especially with single mothers who are co-parenting. They have, which weekend is your weekend? All of that. There's so many things that are moving parts that are happening, and then it takes the time. We have to make the time to actually sit and say, how was your day really? Yes. Who are your friends? What's going on in your friend circle with your children? To because it's just this, or we're doing this.
Absolutely. And not connecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's where the legacy gets missed. It truly gets missed. Legacy, I feel, is such an important part. We talk about it, like I said, in a small window, but it can definitely be, for me, as a person who, I think when my father passed in 2014, and I sat with that, and a part of my healing process was, okay, what lessons did I learn from his life? What lessons do I want to then create for my family? Mm-hmm. And then sharing stories about him with them, and how we do things now because of this. All of this is a part of our family. This is a part of our culture as a people. All of that, to instill that, so they don't just not know why we're doing these things, why these things aren't important. There's meaning attached to it, and there's identity attached to it.
That's so good. So for you, legacy is kind of respecting what has been, and making sense of it in a way that helps you to move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what happens, because I think that you're right, when you talk about some of the barriers that come when people don't really want to talk about legacy. They don't want to really talk about those stories that bring out that identity, because it is painful. So what to it, to the people that have had really negative legacies, that have really stories that they think are just unspeakable? Because it brings shame, it brings guilt, it brings people having to kind of talk about the things that you heard that saying that no one reads that book. There are pages in your book that no one reads. A part of legacy is reading those pages, right? Yeah. And so what to it about the people that have those pages in their book that they would rather not people read? What about that part?
Yeah, I think one, a lot of what you said, a lot of that is connected to shame. I think, the childlike part of us, especially when it happens when we're younger, equates that to something bad happened to me. It must be me. It must be me. Mm-hmm. It must be me. And so a part of healing through that is knowing that, yes, this bad thing happened to you, but it has been defining for you, but it does not define you. It does not define you. And what you experience is going to help, and it's going to empower your children, your grandchildren, because it's so. And you've seen, I know you've seen this being in the game this long, almost 20 years. There's generational things that just happen because of the unspoken.
Yeah.
Because of the unspoken, it just keeps happening. There's broken relationships between parents and children, and because nobody's talking about it, and nobody's saying, how can we fix it? How can we do better? And then also people do that. Then if we don't talk about it, then it just reinforces that childlike part that says it's my fault, because we don't even have the knowledge to know, like, oh, my grandmother experienced this, my great grandmother experienced this. This just didn't start with me. This has been happening in my family, and oh, we just don't talk about this, and that's why this has happened. And so if we have that knowledge, it can truly reinforce that, hey, no, this is not you. It's not you. And it doesn't mean that you are bad, that who you are is shameful, but that what happened to you was wrong. What happened to you was not your fault. And it can also be something that you can grow through and help those who are in your family to also move through and stop the cycle. Stop it.
Yeah. That's so good. So you're talking about this whole generational trauma part. And generational trauma are those things those cycles that go from generation to generation. Like my mom did it, so my mom did it, her mom did it. Like there's this kind of this proverb or this saying about how, this mom, she was showing her daughter how to make a pot roast. And so she cut the end of the pot roast. Have you heard that before? Mm-hmm. She cut the end of the pot roast, and her daughter was like, Mom, why are you cutting the end of the pot roast? And the mother is like, because my mom did it. That's what we do. That's how you make it. And then so the daughter kept asking, well, Mom, why do you keep doing this? And so the mother got mad and she's like, go ask your grandmother. She upstairs, go ask your grandmother, right? And so the daughter went upstairs and asked the grandmother, and the grandmother was like, because we didn't have a big pot. We didn't have a big pot to use, so we had to cut the end of the pot roast to make it fit in the pot. It's not because it needed to be that way. It's because that's what we needed to do to make it. Yeah. That is what generational trauma looks like, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When you... a lot of, especially adults that I work with, and they're coming to me, one, not even understanding how much trauma they've been through. And then also at the same time feeling like, okay, when I look at my friends, especially on social media, they're up here and I'm here. Why is that? Which again reinforces that something's wrong with me. I'm misunderstood, right? And then we take a look at, okay, let's look at your family. Let's look at what's happening. And then like, oh, this has been happening for generations. Yeah. And a lot of what, we as brown people in this country, a lot of what we are, our experiences are tied to slavery, like almost directly tied to slavery.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the thought children are seen, not, and not heard. Like, if children in a house, being raised in a house, and they are not allowed to have a voice, that sounds like what you would tell a slave, right? Like that is very indicative of that. Or children's feelings don't matter, right? Like things of this nature. You see these types of thoughts sometimes in Black families, and that creates these generations of children feeling like invalidated and causing these strained relationships or the trauma that happens. And this is just like how we survive because of the things that we've been through. And and so we have to learn how to connect with each other in a healthy way, and truly that's a part of accepting who we are first, so that we can be able to accept others.
I don't know that many of us recognize the direct impact of slavery for Black and brown people.
Yeah.
And how we parent. We talk, this audience is a lot of single parents, co-parenting moms. There's some married moms as well. Mm-hmm. Some of them are on with us tonight, as a matter of fact. But I don't know that we recognize the impact that generational trauma has on our parenting and how we raise our kids, and how that creates generational trauma, that extends generational trauma.
Absolutely. It's directly connected. Even corporal punishment is something that it's a hot topic, but it's like it's no coincidence that that brown and black families are a high percentage of whooping their children, because that is what we experienced. And it's like, okay, the first generation outside of slavery was like, okay, well, this helped keep me in line, so this will help keep my children in line. And it wasn't out of, I truly don't feel like it was out of wanting to abuse their children, or it was, I need black people, I need my children to be safe. Yeah, and they can't be Alicia. They can't be out here acting or thinking like this is a safe environment. It's Alicia.
Not. Yes.
Even for my children, my son, I can't be in a convenience store, on his skateboard acting, just exploring like any other kid would. No. You need to know you can't touch, don't break, all of those things that these common things that happen in black and brown families. Don't touch, don't look, don't, before you go, because we need you to be safe. We need you to be safe. And so so that's the love part. But on the shadow part though, children receive a indirect message though, like of this kind of harsh love, and so I think the journey, through all of this is for us to understand our limitations and understand the intent of the love, because again, we're trying to love each other in this world and protect our children and give love to them as best we can. And that, it falls short. It just does. It just falls short. It's a part of our process. It's a part of human experience.
That's so good. I think that you're so on point, because I do a lot of family work, and a lot of times when it's mother-daughter, a lot of times the daughter has a difficult time seeing that how the mom is being with her is her way of loving. But the mom just doesn't have the skills that the mom needs in order to love in the way the daughter needs.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it just goes over each other's head, right?
Mm-hmm. They miss
it. So how do you, so we talked about what generational trauma looks like. Good evening, everyone that's coming in. I love everyone. Thank you for coming in. We talked about what generational trauma looks like. How do you begin to bring that awareness within your family, your direct family, and begin to untwine? We talked about it going over each other's head, right? How do you begin to untwine that generational trauma and make it more? We'll talk about how to make it healthy, but how do you begin to just bring that awareness within your family?
I think, it's a lot of really having some honest conversations with yourself. I think that's, the huge part, being self-aware. Just for me, I can, being transparent, I am a person who, if time wasn't a factor, if money wasn't a factor, I would just be kind of, very carefree. That's like my personality. And so because of that, I have a part of me that is like, I have a planner part that's very...
You need a planner to tie you down. You need to be grounded a little bit by a planner.
You have to do this and you have to do that, right? And so just imagine how that goes over with my teenagers, so I think and that's a way of surviving, right? So I got to make sure that, I have income for my family, because I want to create, a safe space for them, right? And at the same time, too, I want them to have that same skill, right? Mm-hmm. But it comes off to them as what? Unloving, like, hush, she's always big deal for nothing. Like, we'll take our time. What's the rush? Why do I have to have a sense of urgency about things, right? All of the like. So I think it's us having these honest conversations with us and how we're showing up in our relationships with our children and then having a communication open. This is sharing the dialogue, like sharing, like, and swallowing our pride a little bit.
Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one. That's a big one for parents.
Yes, we have to say we're wrong. We have to do it. Parents are so and I know you see this in your work, that parents are so concerned sometimes about hurting or traumatizing their children.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, let's just radically accept, I use my DBT, let's just radically accept that you're going to hurt your children. Mm-hmm. And they don't like it when I say that, but let's just radically accept it so that you can, when it happens, hey, I apologize. You know, own your stuff. Mm-hmm. One, they're going to appreciate it, and it'll actually help them to kind of take you off the pedestal that kids have. You know, they have their mom on the pedestal, they have the dad up there, and it helps them to level them, and then also open the dialogue to like, oh, you went through that? Oh, okay. I was having a conversation with my son, and I was asking about school and see if there was crushes or anything, and he was just tight-lipped, like, no, everything's fine. Mm-hmm. So then I just opened up about like, hey, when I was in elementary school, I like this boy, I like that boy. And then all of a sudden, all this information started coming out about who he liked and who he had a crush on. Like, he just needed to know I was human and not a parent. Like, so he could open up. And so I think that is a part of it. Like, being honest with yourself, being self-aware, knowing how you show up in your relationship, and then kind of swallowing the pride to say like, hey, I mess up too. It's okay. And so that there can be a space for each other to be heard, and that healing process to take place.
That's so good. That's so good. One of the things that I hear a lot from my parents that I work with is that they recognize that they need to make the change, that they recognize that they are bringing into the current family, their direct family, that they're leading these dysfunctional patterns that come from generational trauma, but then they don't know how to break that cycle. Like, it's all they know to do. They don't know how to respond to their kids differently. They don't know how to forgive. They don't know how to have those conversations with their kids where they're open and they're being human. They just don't know how to do it. So talk to those moms or dads that may be listening, that may be bringing in that generational trauma, but they're like, I don't know how to do anything different but be traumatic and be dysfunctional.
Yeah. I will say this. I think sometimes there is a part of us that really doubts, that has this voice of doubt. And it does feel like, man, all I know is what I've been doing, or I feel stuck in this place. What I would say to them is, one, if they're not working with someone, to definitely do so. But then also to use your resources. If you have, I think oftentimes we used to have a village back in the day. We don't, that's
the village is starting to go away. I don't know where the village is right now.
Where is it at?
Where's the village? Where's the village?
Yes, but I think that definitely connecting with other women who are parenting, connecting with other parents. So to have a dialogue and build the skill. But I also want to encourage them, though, to know that it is a possibility. It's in there. It's in there. Because oftentimes I'll tell them, what would you want someone to say to you?
Yeah.
When you were hurting, and they would and it would be right there. And, oh, I'm really sorry you're feeling this way, or I can't believe you're going through this. Must be a horrible experience. I said, oh, look at that. Look at that.
Exactly what to do.
You know exactly what to do. Yeah. And we do often, parents, because we're such in that protective role that sometimes we come with that protective energy. So when kids, our child comes to us and says that they're going through something, we want to tell them, well, it just is what it is. Like, that's life. Your friend's going to be that way. And that, because we want to prepare them, like, people are going to walk away from you. Mm-hmm. People are going to be fake. People are going to, to do things to hurt you. And at the same time, that their child on the receiving end is just like, my mom just doesn't understand what's going on. She just doesn't. And so just sitting with them, like, yeah, that does suck.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Is it a part of that process of kind of untangling? Mm-hmm. I know you do IFS, which I love. is kind of healing parts within our own selves that need to be healed so that we can then show up fully in our present. Can you talk about like how we can heal our inner child, especially if you experienced trauma in the past? How do you go about healing your inner child so that then you can be who you need to be for your children?
Yeah. IFS is so empowering. I'm even in my level. I'm in my level 1 training right now, and I think I cried every day of my level 1 training.
It's amazing. It's an amazing type of work to do with people.
Yes,
and yourself.
Yes. So yes, how we connect with our inner child, I think, is truly, we definitely, because is it necessary for you to have an IFS therapist? I don't think that's necessary. I think because one, that would be a tall order, but I think that as long as you are truly attending to your inner child when he or she shows up, and then giving them the reassurance that they didn't get, giving them the attention that they didn't get, sitting with the uncomfortableness of the feeling. We distract so much, when we become activated or triggered. Like we okay, let's watch the movie. And sit with it, attend with it, nurture yourself, love on yourself.
So listen, I'm hearing the people in my mind, like, I don't know how to nurture myself. I don't know how to support myself. I don't know how to sit with myself. Alicia, you saying do these things. If I like, how do you do that?
It is, it was, I'll even explain for me what happened for me, because I was in the training, and I bravely volunteered to do a therapy session in front of 40 other people.
That's great. That's real bravery right there. That's courage.
Yeah, but I really wanted to do it, like you said, so that I can know what it feels like when I'm walking someone through. And so my grandmother passed earlier this year, and what I noticed a part of me that was really popping up during the training was like this high performance, I call it a top performer, superstar part. Like, I want everybody to know that I'm doing well. And I do, I know the answer. And so I was just like, why am I showing up this way? So I was being curious. And so I kind of attended to myself, and sat with myself. And they said, okay, kind of channel this energy, which I did. And I saw, closed my eyes. I saw little Alicia. And I'm telling you, a little Alicia I don't even remember. And I was like in a plaid uniform, and it was like me in kindergarten. It was like, just starting school. I went to this very high academic school, and it was very strict. We're talking probably one of the only schools that had like a paddle still. Okay, and so I sat with myself, and immediately they're like, okay, what is the safe space for her? And I said, my grandmother's house. And then like a wave of grief just happened. And I sat with my younger self, like imagined myself sitting with, and she cried. She just cried about being teased as a kid, because kids do that. And then just all the rules, and realizing that the way I learned to get acceptance was by being liked by the teachers.
That's so good.
Right, being liked by the teachers, and that's how I was showing up in this space. And so and that helped to bring down that energy, but also helped me to sit and nurture that younger part of me. And it was so powerful. It truly was. Through that experience, and I'm telling you, it's so powerful to see what you can see just when you close your eyes and sit with yourself and like that part of it.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What were you? I'm sorry. What were you? I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I said it's so powerful what you can see mentally here when you close your eyes and connect with that part of you, and how visualization will come up and giving yourself what it needs to hear, reassuring yourself, letting my inner child know that you are worthy, you are loved, you are accepted. You don't have to work to be accepted. And give her that reassurance, and then take her with me. Like, she doesn't have to stay there in that space. She can come along with me, and it's truly powerful. Yeah,
that's good. So when you say sit with your inner child or nurture your inner child, what a person is literally doing is imagining themselves as that younger version of themselves, or whatever version they need to nurture. So you're imagining yourself as that younger person and imagining what that version of you needed in that moment.
Absolutely.
And then giving it to them. Absolutely. So if that younger person needed someone to say, I got your back, saying, I got your back. Mm-hmm. If that younger person needed a listening ear, and what did they need to say? Listening, writing it out, journaling what that inner child, what that person, that version of you needed to say, and letting them experience what they did not get to experience back then. Yeah. That is a part of healing generational trauma. Absolutely. That is a part of being able to move forward. That is, when I say that is a part of it, meaning that part of it is just allowing yourself to get what you did not get. I call it just honoring yourself, being able to honor yourself, right? That's how trauma happens. I say this all the time. Trauma happens when you're not able to, number one, save yourself, rescue yourself. Mm-hmm. But number two, when you're not able to honor yourself. So a part of creating that new generation, that generational legacy that you want, is recognizing what didn't I get, what wasn't there, and then providing that in the moment. Mm-hmm. In different ways. It could be for yourself. It can be with yourself. It could be with other people, like you said, getting a support system in place. Yeah. But making sure that you are able to do that, right? So let's talk. That's really good. So you're able to get to that place in the present where you're beginning to be healed. Mm-hmm. So now, how do you could then go and create that generational legacy that you actually want? Yeah. That you're so happy with.
It's, thinking about for yourself, okay, what type of environment do I want to create in my home? How do I want my children to flourish? How do I want us to really experience each other? Mm-hmm. And then how do I want us to continue to impact not just our family, but the community? Mm-hmm. And hey, I'm even braggadocious or even outlandish to say the world. How can our family impact the world? Yeah. I think sometimes we are very with ourselves. It's selfie. It's us. It's me. My feelings. My me. But at the same time, how can our life truly impact our communities and the world? And what does that look like? And then not just keeping it and holding it to yourself, but sharing it. Putting this as like a manifesto in the family. This is what we do. This is how the Jacksons interact with each other. This is how we interact when we show up at school, how we show up at the grocery store. We say hi to strangers. We smile because we want everyone to feel loved and appreciated. So that's a part of creating a legacy, and something that yeah, it's definitely a part of my family's legacy. It's just helping people. We just love to help and give. And so it's just something that's just innate. I just give, and I think communicating that, and not letting it be assumed is a part of that process.
That's so good. That's so good. Mm-hmm. So I think I definitely believe that families are a business, right? They are run just like a business. And just like a business has a vision statement. Mm-hmm. A business has a motto. Yes. A business has a logo. A business has all of those details, right? And I tend to think that our family should too. Yes. And it should be communicated. Like our family should have a family culture. What is the culture of our family? Mm-hmm. And if the culture of your family is not the way that you want it to be, you can create a different culture.
How do we shift it? And then giving empowerment to I think our children as well. Like I tell my children all the time, hey, whenever we have a family meeting, it doesn't have to be just me calling it. You can say, hey, we need a family meeting. Like, and empowering them, encouraging them to use their voice, because if you're seeing something that needs to be corrected that I'm not seeing, then hold your siblings accountable. Hold them accountable. Yeah. Or hold me accountable. If you see me slacking, hey, Mom, I thought you said we weren't supposed to do this. Okay. Like your voice matters in this. So I think that's a huge piece in it too, for sure.
When you think about businesses, when the CEO or whoever the manager, if they're a good manager, right? When you think about the management of company, when something goes against the culture of the company, what do? They're really active in addressing whatever goes against the culture of the business, aren't they? And so this work of creating the culture, the legacy that you want established in your home is really active work. It's not something that's passive. You literally have to know, like you said, have the thing, like I literally have mine up on our family's wall. This is what our family stands for, our family manifesto, our family creed. I have it up on the wall. This is what we stand for. And I notice when those things that are on that manifesto are being done, and I notice it verbally. That's how I make sure that the environment is conducive to what I want it to be. I just by noticing it and paying attention to it and creating moments of opportunity where those things that I want to have happen actually happen. I create those moments. They don't just happen. I create it.
Absolutely. Because you also, and then being mindful too, I think, when things happen, when life happens, sometimes we want to respond a certain way, right? Yeah. Because we're hurt or we're struggling, and so it's also to being mindful about your audience that is close and near to you, about how you respond in a moment when you are activated, triggered, and if you were just single by yourself, no children, you would probably respond another way. But because you have a audience of people who are watching you, it's like being mindful, like, okay, we got this creed, we got this manifesto. I can't do what I want to do.
Can't do what I want to do. I want to push out now.
I would like to, say
but
this.
That doesn't go with the culture that I'm trying to establish in here.
The culture.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach, my children how we, respond in situations like this, responding in love or being kind, showing grace to others. Okay, so I need to also show grace. So good. Yeah.
So speak to, I know we have about 10 minutes or so. I want to speak to the parents that are co-parenting, whether they're co-parenting in the same home because they live together and they marry and they co-parent, or they are co-parenting in two separate homes. I think that there is a new set of problems that exist when you are trying to establish a legacy for your children, when you are trying to adopt a creed for your children and you want to raise them a certain way, and you are doing it with a co-parent or with another person that may not be in alignment with the way that you are in alignment.
Absolutely. There has to, like you said, even if it's in the same house or separate house, there's going to...
Let me take a drink right there.
Yeah. there's going to be there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be different beliefs, and there has to be a meetings of the minds where we say this is what we're going to agree to. This is how we're going to bend. This is how we're going to compromise, and it has to be respected. And then also like not half done either, right? Like, oh, we just gonna, your mama think it's important, so come on ahead and do it. Like, no, that's not in the spirit in which.
That's not helpful. That's not helpful.
Because then it communicates to children, oh, okay, we just doing this because mom wants us to do it, and not because this is what we're doing. This is what we as a family do, right? And so, making sure that everybody who comes sits at the table. Because even if it's, two sets of parents, right? If it's a blended situation happening, like everybody's coming to the table to say, this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to even engage with each other, so that the children know that, hey, this is a team effort here, and it's love, and we can disagree in love, and it's all because why? We care about you and making sure that you are good. And so that, the children will grow up in a space where they're not concerned or worried about adults, but they'll be able to just be kids.
That's so good. Do you think that, so this is something that I teach and I work through with my clients, is that I believe that there is a benefit, especially with co-parenting moms and dads. I think that there's a benefit to knowing and learning your co-parents' stuff, your co-parents' trauma.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that we pay attention to that enough.
Absolutely.
We just ignore and act like they don't have their own history. But I think that it is so important to understand your co-parents' history so that you can then understand why they are the way that they are. And in terms of creating the legacy, how do we problem solve or kind of manage what has existed and then create what we need to create moving forward? I think that is so important. Can you speak to that?
Yes, the story is directly connected to the legacy. The story is directly connected to the passion and how you want your children to move forward. And so if you don't know the other person's story, it can be in a place where you're like, why is this such a big deal to you? Or like, why does this matter? Like, why do you care? For my husband, again, I'll be transparent. My husband, he has, no matter what type of gym shoe my children wear, they have to have a name brand gym shoe. And I could get a gym shoe from anywhere. As long as it's cute, I'm going to have it on my feet. And he just like, no. Because that was a thing for him growing up. And so knowing that, I'm going to respect it. I'm going to respect it and I'm going to honor it. And so when I shop, I'm going to get whether if it's a Converse, a Van, a Nike, and Adidas, I'm going to get a name brand shoe.
They got to have a name brand.
I'm going to get it, because that's to honor his experience. And so you think about, if you don't know that, like I said, it can just diminish it. And then it can also help you to, when there are moments of conflict, not step on things that could be like minefields, right? Like you don't know what's happening. And you step on something, and it's like, and then you get a huge reaction. It's like, well, that was uncalled for. It's like, well, if you knew the story, then you would know what are things that are below the belt. What are things what are things that are below the belt? What are things that we should not mention in the heat of the moment, right? And because the goal is a resolution. The goal is not to be right. The goal is a resolution.
The goal is a resolution, not to be right. Yes.
To be right.
But I love what you just said. You said that where the passion is the trauma. And so I think that sometimes what we tend to not recognize or connect is when people are being really passionate with us, it's because that means that there's something that's really important to them. It's not because they really or wanting to be hurtful or malicious. It's just that it's something important. I want you to get this. I want you to understand this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know another way for you to get it than for me to be loud, for me to be whatever. So that passion means that that is important to that person. And that means that that is something that's worth exploring, especially in light of generational trauma, in light of creating legacy. That is so important, Alicia.
Yeah, they're not just making a big deal for nothing. Yeah. They're speaking from a place that is truly, that is one connected to a pain, right? It's, passion and pain are buddies, right? So it's connected to a pain. And so, to take the moment and hear them out. Sometimes you have to okay, I think there's a part of us sometimes that just wants to it's not that big of a deal, or to diminish it because it's uncomfortable for us, or we don't want to give in. We don't want to give in. We don't want to be. We want to do what we want to do. We don't want to do. We don't want to. Okay, now another thing to think about, right? So it's all right. It could be just that, the fact that it's just one more thing now. Okay, now I have to consider this thing now because you're making a deal about this, but no, this is important.
It's important. Yeah. And so just acknowledging how important that is, and just maybe even just saying, I get that this is important to me. Help me to understand why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's enough. That's enough in that moment. But what about the moms or the dads that have a really difficult time kind of getting that information from their co-parent? How do they bridge that conversation? I think we got a couple more minutes. How do they bridge that conversation with their co-parent or with their spouse?
Yeah. I think what the intent has to be stated. I'm coming to understand.
Yeah.
I want to hear you out. And I need to know what's happening for you, that this is really important. Please talk to me, because I want to honor that. I want to respect you. I think if we are honest about our intention, that will help to disarm the other person who might be defensive, oh, here she go again, here he goes again, don't want to hear me out. And saying, no, I notice this is a thing. Every time this subject comes up, you get spirited and you say the same thing. Okay, what is? I really want to know, what is this about? What's happening here? Because I want to understand you. I want to understand you, and I want to hear you out, and I want to respect what you're saying. That's the big piece. If the intent is laid out, and then we have to, second part, be ready to hear it. Yeah, we got to be ready to hear it. I asked my clients, I just want them to tell me how they feel. I said, now, are you sure you're ready to hear what they have to say? Because you got to be ready to hear and receive it, and not defend what they're saying, but to hear what they're saying.
That is so good. You just did a masterclass in 2 seconds. Being curious about the other person. So approaching them with curiosity.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, finger pointing, right? Because if you finger point, then that's going to bring up their defense mechanisms and you're not going to get anywhere. So approaching it with curiosity. But then also, the most important thing is, are you ready to hear what they have to say? Are you ready? Mm-hmm. To understand them, not defend, not say, but. Are you ready to hear just what they have to say? And then what are you going to do with that information in terms of honoring it?
That part. That's huge. Because if I tell you why this is important to me, and then it's not honored, it's not respected, there's no follow through, then it's like a slap in the face. It's like, why do we even have this conversation?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why the intent is so important to say, like, I want to respect you. Okay. And so knowing for yourself. So if you're saying that, that means you're going to have to be in the space of compromise, and you're going to have to.
Ooh, where did that compromise word?
Yeah, you're going to have to be in a space of. Remember, Stretch Armstrong is a toy back when we was little, but you gotta have to be a little flexible. You're gonna have to be a little flexible. Do something that might be uncomfortable to honor the other person, because you guys are in this together. We're talking about human beings. We're very fragile. We should probably. I think the world would be better if we had like just fragile, maybe like so we would have a reminder that we are fragile human beings, and so we need to be handled with care.
Yeah. So you're saying that creating that legacy is not just about you. It's about the other person because we're talking about family here. And so it's not just about your perspective of how the family should look. It's about how the other person thinks that it should look, and their opinion, their thoughts, their past, their hopes, their dreams goes into also creating that legacy. That's really good. That's so good, Alicia. That's so good. So last words, let's wrap up. Last things that you want to tell people in terms of creating that family legacy that they would love in terms of moving their family forward. Any last words for people?
Yes. One, know that you can do it. That is possible. Because, I'm imagining that even hearing this, it seems overwhelming. And there may be a part of you that doubts, like, a legacy. For my family, we just trying to make it from one day to the next. Are you talking about a legacy, Miss Alicia? What? That it's possible. It's possible. It doesn't have to be a huge manifesto, like constitution. It does not have to be. You could start small. You can start small with just 3 things, right? And build upon it. So it's definitely possible. And then to your story, there's so much power in story. Share. And
like have conversations like Christmas. Like Christmas time, like you and your kids get together and just tell stories about your family. Like one of my favorite stories is that my dad, he would go into the wood. Like I guess we couldn't afford a tree, like go to the store and get a tree. Mm-hmm. So he would go into the woods, him and his friends, and they would go get us a Christmas tree. And my mom, it would always be too tall for the house. And so my mom would always pretend to like love it, and she would make us pretend that we loved it too. And so that was like our Christmas tradition. And so I will be passing that story on down to my kids, but tell stories. Get your kids together and tell not even the great things, the terrible things, like you said earlier, the secret things. Tell your stories that is legacy. Our legacies are so complex and diverse and rich. Share them. And it will help your kids understand themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Understand themselves, understand you, and truly solidifies the bond, in relationship. So yes, please. One, you can build a legacy. You can. That voice is telling you it's not possible. Tell them thank you for saying that, and at the same time, I'm going to try. I'm going to try, and my try is not going to be just like I thought about it and considered it, but I'm going to actually take a step to build a legacy and share your stories, connect with each other. So important.
That's so good. That's so good. And then take one step at a time, right?
Yes, one step
at a time. One step at a time. I love that. Thank you so much, Alicia Jackson. Tell us where we can find you on the media, on the social media streets. Tell us where we can find you.
Yes, I'm pretty much everywhere. I am on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, Alicia Jackson LPC. Connect with me there. I appreciate your attention and your listening ears and your encouragement. And thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
This is such a great conversation. I love talking about legacy. Love. What's the name of your practice again? Tell me again.
So I'm in 2 two practices, Wentworth Associates, and then Focus Therapy Clinic, which is in Southfield. Yes.
In Michigan.
Yes.
In Michigan. So if you are in Michigan, hit Miss Alicia Jackson up for your therapy needs. She says that she works with adolescents and young adults and adults.
Yes. And even couples.
And couples. Couples are so exciting. I love working with couples. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us on this Christmas week for Let's Talk Moms Holiday Conversations. We have one conversation left. That conversation will be next Thursday. Miss Wiltrina Jones will be here from I Used to Be You Fitness. We will be talking about how do you lose weight and keep it off for good. I have a fitness division of my practice. She's been helping women and men lose weight forever, and she gets results. So we want to talk about the inside and the outside aspects of losing weight, keeping it off for good, and some of the challenges that people come up with, and how do you set a plan to accomplish those goals for next year. So great. Thank you, Lamont.
I'm going to text you after this, Lamont.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys, enjoy your holidays, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.